where you happen to find yourself. We are here to talk about Jira Service Management or JSM Playbooks. Welcome, Frank. It's good to see you, my friend. As always, I'm always curious to see where folks are in the world. I need to find a good goal to give us for the super chat thing that YouTube has. All right. We're going to give folks just a minute or two to jump on in and join us. I was surprised to see how many folks were interested in this. This feature dropped a couple months ago, I think, with not a lot of fanfare. But I was surprised and excited to see it because it's got some interesting applications that I've been thinking through that I think many of us will find useful. Is it going to let me fix this? It will. Brilliant. All right, as usual, we're going to be going through a couple of slides, and then we'll be going back and forth between slides and a Confluence, Jira Cloud Premium instance. So what I'll be demonstrating is live in cloud, but nothing I'm doing, I think everything I'm doing is available in all versions of cloud. So data center folks, you won't have this. And I will talk a little bit about a big announcement about data center in just a moment. Also, just a quick reminder, please grab some coffee. It's early for me, so if you all need it, now is your chance. Are JSM playbooks like Jupyter playbooks? I have no idea, my friend. Also, you spelled Jupyter wrong. I know that's how the tool spells Jupyter. Hopefully, Liz, by the end of this, you'll have a good answer to that. There is one announcement around data center I just want to share. Earlier this week, Atlassian announced data center's end of life in 2029, I want to say. So just sharing that news with folks. In case you missed it, I will put a link to their official announcement. They're doing a 3-year, 4-year run-up to its complete transition, I guess we'll call it. And I'll just put a link in the chat so folks have that information. Otherwise, we're going to get started. Quick way of introduction. My name is Rob, and I've been using Atlassian products since about 2013, but I've spent my career in IT and systems. And just a quick question to help get us started. I've been using IT systems since I started my career, actually. And one of those systems was a ticketing system. It wasn't Jira Service Management. I think it was something called FileMaker Pro. And I think it was just a homebrew way for where I worked to track tickets. Now, that helped us track work, but what it didn't do is give us a way to train someone or teach someone a process or how to solve the ticket. And so I, as the person working there, had to talk to someone else. I had to ask a more senior technician to help me out. And at this point in my career, I didn't know much about IT. A lot of it was hands-on learning, which was great for me because I learned. But for many people, that doesn't work. And at scale, that can be hard. If we have dozens or hundreds of agents responding to tickets, we can't take time to train each one individually. There can be some ways we can help that, but we really need some way to document information. And over the years, I've built out many knowledge bases, and that seemed to be the solution for most of the time. And I'll talk about how Playbooks helps us address that challenge and some of the differences maybe between that and other forms of documentation. Please use the chat to communicate. It should be over my left shoulder to your right. Best way to interact, best way to get more information. You'll see some folks have been in here before. They're very comfortable with each other. If you're brand new, I'll encourage you just to say hi. If you're looking for continual learning and support, I also have this Discord channel. You might need a personal email, but during the session, please use the chat. Also, hit the subscribe button if you like this. That'll get you regular updates. And I am doing this professionally. So I'm now a full-time trainer and content creator. So your support is really meaningful to me and helps me keep doing this. Easiest way to support me, hit the like button right there in the middle bottom. That lets other people find this more easily. And also tells me that this is something I should keep doing more of, these types of videos. And of course, you can share this. If there's someone else you know who could benefit from this knowledge, please just hit that share button. And then folks will find this more easily, and you'll be able to give it to someone you work with, that kind of thing. All right, a quick agenda. We're going to be talking about some concepts and ideas around playbooks. Like many systems, most of the time I spend with playbooks is not in the tool. Most of the time I spend in playbooks is spent around figuring out what do I need them to do. And I'll talk about what they are in just a minute. But keep in mind that like with every system, every tool, every process, if we don't understand what we need it for, and if we don't put time into determining how can it help our team, it won't be as successful as otherwise. So we'll talk about some things we need to do on how we support, some ideas on how we make sure our support teams get the information they need so they can be successful. We'll also talk about what playbooks are and how to plan them out, and these are the concepts and ideas. Now, in between that, we'll be popping into Jira to take a look at playbooks, where they live, how we can modify them when someone sees them, and what we as admins can do to build them out and support them. So we'll be getting plenty of time in the tool to see how we can build these out and what they can do for us. So I'm going to drop a quick poll just around how your team handles process documentation. What do I need to look here? And I'll just put a couple of options. And the term tribal knowledge in this refers to folks just have it in their head walking around. This is a very common approach. There'll be someone at the organization who knows everything or knows a lot about the topic. So that's what tribal knowledge is in this context. So knowledge is really important for support agents. Depending on the environment, support agents will be expected to handle a lot of different types of tickets. Smaller organizations, you might be forced to handle every ticket. It kind of doesn't matter what it is. And bigger organizations, even if you're specialized, you have folks who just help HR or just help IT requests coming from Germany. That's still a lot of stuff you have to know. And that information is also constantly changing and shifting. And no one can know everything. Like many of us might know a lot of stuff, and there's always that one person who seems to know it all, but really you can't know everything. And especially in terms of support, when we get these tickets come in, we need to make sure that our agents have the ability to get the information they need to do their job so our customers are happy. And that's where a lot of this support comes in. And a big part of what my job has been is to figure out, how do I ensure that Frank has all the information at their fingertips? Now, there are many ways to provide information to agents. I've used Confluence in the past, another Atlassian product, just because that's what the company I work at happens to have. And many of us here are saying knowledge base, very common these days. When I started in IT, there were literally binders printed out for certain systems. These big 3-inch thick binders we would use. And I was part of the transition to get that into a digital knowledge base, which was bizarre. Just having to transfer all that information. Now, we don't even get paper manuals for things we purchase. They're all online. But there's no real wrong way to provide information. Every organization will have its own set of tools, but many of them are starting to go digital, which makes a lot of sense. The specific tool we use can differ. And that's where there's no best one. I'm not going to tell you Confluence or SharePoint or Evernote or Keep or any of those is better than any other. Each of them offers different ways of helping and different features. In the same way, Playbooks will offer you different features that can help support your agents. And the ones that I find tend to support folks the best are the ones that agents actually use and ones that are very close to the work. When you're working on a support ticket, you don't want to have to open up 3 different screens and log into 4 different systems in order to get to information. 1, you're not going to use it, but 2, that adds so much extra work to get there. So the closer I can get information to my agent when they're working, the better, because that makes it very easy for that agent to pop open a screen and get whatever it is they need to be successful, to help the customer and to avoid frustration. So when you're looking at any tool, including Playbooks, ask yourself these questions. Will my team actually use this thing? And which ones can I get closest to their work? So when we're considering playbooks, there's 4 steps we're going to go through, and we're going to mostly focus on 3 and 4 in this, in terms of building a playbook and in terms of monitoring. But first is to identify the need. What does our team need to do? So playbooks will appear directly on our work items. It doesn't require the agent to even open up a Confluence page, a knowledge base page. It just shows up right on the same screen as the ticket. And so before we start just putting things in, which is a very common pitfall that groups run into, they'll just start adding information to a knowledge base or start building. We're going to want to identify that need. And next, we need to clarify the process. When someone asks for a password reset, what are the exact steps we need to do? If we don't understand that, it kind of doesn't matter what the playbooks feature can do. We're going to give incorrect or not the best information. Then we'll actually build it out. And that's the fun part, and that's what most people think of when they think of tools. Yes, I get to go push buttons and make something happen. And last is monitoring, which is another really important aspect. This involves talking to your team. This involves tweaking and changing the playbooks as things change and evolve, because the needs of your team will change over time. And you want to make sure they have whatever it is they need and that they work. Justin, I can only put 4 answers in these YouTube polls, so it's a great free tool, but it does have limitations. All of the above, that is fair. Although I'd be curious how many paper-based process documentations there still are. So identifying that need, go through your work items. And I can briefly show this as an example, but it would be just reviewing tickets and then talking to my team. Hey, Justin, it looks like we've gotten a lot of password resets in the past week. Why do you think that is? Or how can I help support you and the other agents? And this is really a collaborative effort because we as the admins are going to build this thing out, but we might not be using it. It might be up to Liz, the support agent, to actually use the thing. And so we want to make sure that Liz gets a good experience out of it. So make sure you're including the people who will actually be using the tool. Next, we need to clarify whatever the process is around, I'm picking on password resets because that's an easy one, but make sure we understand the exact steps. So when I build out a playbook, a series of steps an agent will follow, I want to be very clear on what they should do. I'll have links to the exact admin controls they would go to and, other information around exactly what they're going to do to reset that password. And then go test them. Make sure that process is correct. This is good for a couple reasons. It gives you a chance to ensure your process is actually accurate, but also will help you condense it and make it as compact as possible. So you're giving the agents just the information they need about whatever the thing is. Liz, I'm kind of scared that you know the exact year that was the last year. And then the fun part, we'll spend a lot of time in this in a few minutes, but adding the playbook into Jira Service Management. So actually putting it in, running some tests, and then having a pilot program. Pick a couple of types of tickets to add a playbook for and see how it goes. Keep an eye on those work items. Talk to your agents around how did they go. Did the playbook help you? Did you find it useful? Or should we go change things? And then last is monitoring. Review the use of playbooks. There's an audit log built into playbooks which will show you who used them when, which has a couple of uses I'll talk about once we get hands-on, but update them as you go. Again, like all documentation, it's accurate when it's created, and then it starts to get stale. And so we as admins need to be very careful about going in and updating and removing, but also educate your team. Make sure they know when to use these and how they exist. I'll come back to that. I need your help because I've been talking a lot and I want to show you things. We're going to pop into Jira Cloud Premium. But first I'm going to start in Confluence just to show this is what my documentation can look like in my knowledge base. And typically this is where an agent would go. They would open up their queue in Jira. So the queue is where all of their tickets live that they are expected to solve. I have all of these tickets I have to solve. Where's the one from today? Here it is. And I see I have this one about resetting a password. Now, usually as an agent, I would have to go open up Confluence and go find it or whatever my knowledge base is. Or I might even see it here on the screen in the bottom right. But even this requires me to go somewhere else. Playbooks, on the other hand, just show up smack dab in the middle of the work item. And so this removes a lot of the distance. I don't even have to open another system. Interesting. I don't know if I can say your handle properly, and Enzeruzer 0. But printing out certain Confluence pages. I haven't seen that approach, but usually I don't have a printer. So I usually don't even have the ability to print off a page. There's no real wrong way to handle our documentation. There are best practices and guidelines. But if it's silly and it works, it's not silly. So to find the playbook, they just show up right in the middle, and then I can just expand it, and I'll see any playbook that is available. Now, I've only built out one so far. We're going to build out another one together, but you'll see it's just got some kind of name, and then as an agent, I can expand it to see what it does. So this playbook is telling me as the agent, to create a documentation page, I have 3 steps. And you'll notice these steps look a little different. This one is a review, and it's got like a little page icon. And this one has the automation logo. So I'll talk more about step types, but basically they can be informational. They can say, hey, here's what you need to do. They can have links. And then you also have automation steps. So if you have manually triggered automations in Jira, you can make that part of the playbook. So this is removing even the need to come up here to the top right to my automations menu and like find the right automation. It's just serving up a list of do this, do this, do this, and that's the best practice for solving it. Now, again, there's only one in here right now, but there can be multiple playbooks per project. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Each playbook lives in one and only one JSM project right now, but they can appear for multiple work item types. So I'll show you how we can do that in just a minute. But this is a great way to make sure your agents have the information just right in their face. They don't have to fumble for it. And even better, they don't have to go open up another screen. So a quick coffee break for Rob. And I'll end this poll and start a new one. And I'll just make up some challenges here for our documentation. And again, I only get 3 options. All right. Also, a quick reminder, if you like this, just hit the like button. Got about 40 folks and 4 likes, which is great. So if you do like this so far, hit the little thumbs up right below me. Also, I do have online learning courses. Check out that QR code right under my head. I'll drop that link in just a second. And if you want to consider supporting me, you can also become a channel member. You'll get early access to videos and a couple other various perks. That seems like a lot of outages, Liz. So we've mentioned a bit about the parts of a playbook. Now there's really 4 major chunks. There's an instructional step, which we'll dig into, but it's like your text or what to do. There's an automation step, the ability to trigger a manually triggered automation. And that's important to remember. It's got to be a manually triggered one. Conditions, and then an audit log. So I mentioned that it records when it was used and how, which has a couple of interesting uses. The instructional steps are intended to be, in my mind, it's like a piece of documentation. It can include text, hyperlinks. I don't think it can include images yet. I made a mistake there. But it lets you put text on the page to guide someone through what you need them to do. For me, this can kind of replace parts of a Confluence page. And it puts information right in the page. And you'll even right on the ticket. You'll even notice that the editor looks like it's ripped right out of Confluence, which I'm pretty sure it was. So you do have a lot of options for making it a little bit richer and more interesting to look at than just a wall of text. The next one is that automation step. And this lets agents trigger automations. Now, the automation has to be available in the project. And again, it has to be a manual trigger. But this takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. A lot of the challenges I see with groups and manually triggered automations is that folks forget it exists, or they forget to go to that little menu and find the right one. And even if they can find it, sometimes the naming, they aren't named well, they click on the wrong one, they get confused, So here we remove a lot of that guesswork. It's putting it on rails, to use the phrase. It's making sure that there are, what's the word I'm looking for here? Guardrails, so folks can't wander off and click the wrong one, and making sure it happens in the correct sequence. And you can have multiple automation rule steps if that is what you need. Now, one thing about this is you have to have a good automation rule. So I've whipped up a quick example, but as long as it's a manual trigger, you can kick this off. This could be to make a Confluence page. This could be to make an additional Jira ticket, change something about the existing one, send a notification. Anything an automation can do, this can be set up to help the agent do and support them. Now, conditions don't show up on the playbook when the agent's using it, but they are what let you control when the playbook shows up. For example, I might have two types of tickets that could come in, a bug and a question. I don't want the playbooks that relate to bugs showing up on questions. So I can use conditions to control that. So I can tell Jira, have this particular playbook only show up on this type of work items. I like this use case of printing out documentation that you would need if you don't have internet access or power. And that's a great reminder for like backup plans. In some cases, like we're just done. However, if you're the person responsible for doing a cold start of a system, having procedures available on hard copy is great. I guess the only consideration there, is just making sure you update it regularly and print off new ones in case it changes. Now you can have multiple different conditions. So this type of work item and this type of reporter and this priority. And we'll see this as we jump in, but you can control which tickets I keep saying workbook, the playbook shows up on. And this again helps reduce confusion. In the same way, I might not know which automation to click on because there's so many. If I see a lot of playbooks, I might not open the right one. And we also get execution logs. We as admins can see the execution log of every step in every playbook. But more importantly, on the work item itself, you'll see the execution log for just that work item. Now on that work item, that's important because if I do some work and then Justin opens up the ticket later, he'll see right where I left off. He'll understand, oh, it's been 2 days since Rob did this step, or Rob didn't do any steps. Now keep in mind the playbook is recording this information when an agent clicks a button on the playbook. So here, this isn't Jira looking at the ticket and going, oh, Rob has done these steps. This is Rob pushing buttons saying, I did step 1, I did step 2. So it's not quite to a state where the system's going to figure it out. Kimo, good to see you. For automations, and I'll talk more about these when I get in, the term is scope. When I make an automation as a project admin, it only lives in the project I created in. So that's the biggest difference. In terms of functionality, automations between JSM and Jira are very similar. You'll see different triggers and different actions because there's different features in both systems. Now, this is a screenshot of those execution logs on the work item. So here I can see that these 2 steps have been completed. I can see who did them and when, and I can even mark them as undone. Like, whoops, Rob didn't actually do step 2, which is called test. Again, useful for handing off work. I complete a work item, I give it to Kimo, who keeps running with it while I'm on vacation or something. He knows exactly where I started. Oh, excuse me. And clearly time for a coffee break for Rob. And a quick reminder, please hit the like button. If you're liking this, it's right under my head. And check out the QR code under me. That's just some online learning courses. I'm constantly building that out, so I'll be adding a new one on Jira board configuration soon. I'm almost done with it. And then also consider becoming a channel member. QR code in the bottom left. Oof. That must have been an exciting time, Justin, recovering from ransomware. All right, so we are back in Jira. And again, this is the same ticket we were on. And I have one playbook right now. I'm going to just make a whole new one to help my team with password resets. Because I've realized, hey, we get a lot of password resets. We have a lot of new team members. They need some support. They need some backup. So I'm going to go create a brand new playbook. To do this, I have to be the a project admin. So I'll go into project settings. And if you're missing the project admin permission, you might have to talk to IT or put in a ticket to get help. But I'm looking for this Playbooks option. And here we have all of the playbooks. Again, there's one in here right now. I can see its name. I can see the owner and also the request types that it shows up on. So if I have a lot of these, this is a great way to figure out what already exists. I can also just turn them off. So if I don't want to use it right now, but I want to just disable it, I can. And then I can go through and copy and delete. The other tab I have is my execution logs. And right now, nothing has happened. So we're going to get to see this populate as we go. I'll just hit create. And this screen will look similar to, but different than what we get in automations. Garrett, I hope I'm saying your name properly. I don't believe so right now. I was mistaken on the slide. We can link out though. So what I could see you doing is linking to a Confluence page with screenshots, like write down the steps and say if you need more visual information. That's one of the limitations though, in terms of these steps. So you annoyingly can't give it a name right away, and it must have at least one step. So this is, I'll change this to an instructional step. I'll come back to automations in a minute. So here I need to give the step a name, and this is what's going to show up for the agent. So first thing is like review access. Now, the steps I put in will relate to my understanding of my team's process. So right now I'm just making this up as I go, but I wouldn't start doing this until I really understand how do we reset a password at my organization. And these are the editing options I get. It looks very similar to Confluence, but there are some differences. Not all the macros exist or elements. So I've got some macros, status, date, expand, divider, decision. And it's like, this I actually haven't tested yet, but decision macros in Confluence do a specific thing. I don't know what they do in the playbook, so maybe I'll include that at the end just for giggles. We can hyperlink out, so I can't insert images right now. Oh, love that. Enzer user, thank you for suggesting something that makes sense. Review, or validate. They say they are. Again, I'll just make up some quick steps. Ask them their, whatever steps we would do to validate. You can have action items in here in this little checkbox. This just visually lets someone tick a box. So depending on what we need, you could have that. I personally don't know how useful or annoying I would find that as an agent because this whole thing is really a step. You can insert these information panels, which can be very useful. So this is part of documentation where we also want to make it visually pleasing. We don't just want to cram a bunch of text in front of someone and walk away. So please take some time when you're looking at this to review our limited options, making the panels, adding the status icons, something to make it a little bit better for agents so it's not all the same stuff. Then I'll just click add another step. Over on the left is just going to start building out. I can insert a step between steps just by mousing over and clicking on this little plus. And that will insert new steps between if I need to. But here I can just keep building out my steps. So I might add another one. Confirm their account is active. And I would just keep going, building out whatever it is I need this playbook to do. And it looks like most of us have challenges maintaining documentation. I kind of figured that would be what folks say. I'm going to close that pull down. Unfortunately, with playbooks, I'll come back to this later. There's not much in terms of updating them we have beyond going in and just updating them. But I'll talk more about some of the limitations as we go. Next, we have an automation step. Now, this is great because, again, it removes the need for me to know which manual automation to trigger. And all it's going to do is grab every manually triggered automation in the project. And so this is where I think Kima had a question. This will only pick up automations that are scoped to this project, so generally created here. So I'm going to go in and just quickly make a new rule. I won't get too deep into automations. I'll just kind of build one on the fly. But I do have to have a manual trigger. So many groups will have a lot of great automations with different types of triggers when a work item is created or when someone moves it to a certain status. None of those will work with a playbook. You have to have it be manual. The other things just to be aware of, you want to make sure that your agents have the ability to run the automation. So you can prevent people from triggering automations. Only certain groups can do it. So just make sure that whoever's running it has access. And I love this side discussion folks have around a Google apocalypse or something. I will again shout out my Discord channel. Over 200 folks, and they're talking about Atlassian topics and ideas. Great place to go for other stories, kind of like what we're seeing with Liz and Justin. I've got my trigger, and next I just need to add some components, and these are the pieces that tell it what to do. I'm going to make a very simple, it's edit, isn't it? A very simple automation. All I'm going to have it do is attach a label. And what do I want to call this? Password to my work item. This particular automation is probably not something you would ever do in real life. You could, and this is just going to add a label to the work item. But it's just an example of we can have the system take this action, and I need a manually triggered one in my playbook. Add password label. So I can now refresh my list, and I've got my manual trigger. And I might call this something like label ticket, whatever I want them to do in a brief description. So a quick note on why you're doing it. I'll add one more instructional step just to follow up. Now, you could even automate things like comments on the ticket itself. So depending on how far you want to go. Kima, not sure the question here, my friend, if you could help clarify. You can automate, again, anything with the trigger. So you could automate comments to the customer or other things. So I probably wouldn't go that far. I would keep these more related to here as the agent what you need to do. So here I have my 4 steps. I'm just going to hit publish. And I have to give this thing some kind of name. And this is where I'll see all the conditions around when this thing is available. So I'll give it some name, password reset process. I can have this accessible to everyone, but maybe I want to change this. So in this example, I can use something like JQL, and I could say summary has to include the word password. This is probably a little bit too restrictive and clunky. Ideally, I would be focusing in on a work type, request type, or group. Work type is the type of ticket that comes in. So a task, a bug, a question. Request type is what the customer sees on the portal. So this could let you drive it based either on internal definition or customer-facing definition. Groups let you define it by groups of users. For example, you may have specific processes for executives that you follow differently for non-executives. Or maybe you have specific processes for password resets for folks in certain countries. And people in certain countries belong to a group. It does require setup beyond the playbook. But if you have access to that information in Jira, you can have this play out and only show up for those groups. In this case, I'll try and just make it show up on password related because that's our fun example today. And now I have this playbook. You can always come back and edit it. You'll notice that the playbook details button exists, but you can't click on it. So I don't really know why that exists. But now I have it on my list. So if I go back to that work item I was working on, I'll now have access to this playbook. At least I hope so if I set it up properly. Aha! I've got my reset password process and create documentation. Now, I don't necessarily need documentation here, so I'm going to go back and just get rid of it. And I'm going to restrict it based on the work type. This is a simple work type. So I'm just going to go say it doesn't show up for simple work types. I have another use for that playbook, but I don't want my agents to get confused by this other process. So I'm going to change the work type to be something not simple. There's a document work type. That's perfect. Now, annoyingly on this list of, I'll come back to this, my annoyances with this feature. I want to show you it working first before I start poking holes in it too much. All right, now I have just have that one. I can open this up now. And what I'll get on the screen is that documentation that was created. So again, the advantage here is it gets it right up on the screen. Ender user, you can restrict it using any JQL statement. So let me go back real quick. This one. So it's got these conditions for work type, request type, and groups. I can add more conditions in here. I don't know why they split this out because you can add more conditions based on labels, status, or JQL. So I have more filters down here in the bottom right. I could add organizations and say only JQL, how I pronounce the JQL, Jira Query Language, right here. So as I understand it, if you can define a JQL statement around your need to restrict it, you can restrict it based on that. So you should be able to do it, Ender user. Let me just put it in right now and see if we can show you what that looks like. So I'm setting it to only show up for organization is equal to JQuil Enterprises. Right, this customer is in JQuil Enterprises. So I'm expecting to see it. Yep, still there. So this should allow you to tailor it. And again, this is dependent on our needs. When I think about building out playbooks or any documentation, I'm going to start with the lowest hanging fruit, to use the phrase, or the playbooks that will help the most agents most of the time. So I would list out, like just get a big long list of all the processes you do and then order them based on either simplicity, like how quick they are to make, or how many work items they'll help someone resolve. And then you'll figure out when do you have to display it. Now this also leads to some interesting ideas. So password reset process, for example, is pretty straightforward or pretty generic. I've got my process here. I'll come back to my interesting idea in just a second, I promise. I, as the agent, can see what I'm supposed to do, confirm their identity or validate identity. Once I've done that thing, I've got a done button I can just click. And this is how it will record when that happened, the execution log, and it increments the number of steps completed. So this is just a visual signal to me and other agents. Hey, you're 1/4 of the way done. So as I would go down this, I would just keep ticking off, I'm done. The automation will just have a run button, so I can push that to run the automation. And again, we'll just see it recording that I've done these things. Now this execution log for this particular workflow on this work item also shows up here under execution logs. There we go. Again, showing me how it's happened. This is useful information for other agents. If I come in and I realize that Justin stopped at validate identity, I can then pick up on the next step. I can also use this as process improvement. hey, Rob isn't using the playbook. He did halfway through and he completed the ticket. Okay, he completed the ticket, so the work's done, but why didn't he use the playbook? Should I go talk to Rob and understand why? Or hey, Liz completed the whole thing, but it took, the automations took a long time to run. I should go investigate that. Liz, could you drop it in Discord? I can drop it here. Again, another great shout out to my Discord community. It's live chat. It's intended as a place to just share information. Also a great group of people. Going back into my settings, that execution log is also recorded in here. Now, this is one of the limitations in my mind of it. I have no way to extract this. I have no way to download this to a CSV to analyze it. All I can do is look for it in here, and I can search through it by the name of the playbook. So as an administrator, I'm going to add this to the very long list of things I have to do once a week, once a month, to go look at how playbooks are being utilized, to understand, are they being used in a timely fashion? Are they having, increased durations on automations? Is one person using them but someone else isn't? This can help me answer those questions. Now, there's another limitation here. I have no way of auditing what the playbooks are other than coming in here. So I can't connect this to a Confluence page and say automatically mirror this content or something like that. Garrett, I don't disagree with you, my friend. Those are two of the high-level limitations. My execution log is a great place for information on how it's being used. However, I can't easily analyze this. I'd have to go through it manually. Maybe if I'm very lucky, I can click and drag and paste this into a CSV. But this is challenging and a bit clunky right now. The other thing, as Garrett mentioned, if I go into my steps, in my instructional steps, I have no way of inserting an image into this. Now, in my mind, this kind of makes sense. Again, these appear directly on the work item. And so if a large image takes up a lot of space, it's going to, blow things out of proportion. The workaround I'd suggest, my friend, is have a Confluence page or a link to the image and just say, add some text. Click here to see what this looks like. Non-ideal, because the whole point of the playbook is it's right there on the ticket, and agents don't have to go anywhere else. And then you have to send them somewhere else to see what it looks like. But at least you can get them that image. Now, I mentioned some interesting cases. You may have, I keep wanting to say workbooks, I don't know why, playbooks that have different versions, essentially. Again, password reset is a good example. Maybe you have to reset a Google password, and that's different than a Atlassian password, and that's different for people in one country and a different country. This is where you can build out a playbook and then just copy it. So I can make a copy of this, and I might call this one password reset process for Canada. And then I would use the JQL to modify this only shows up for tickets from Canada. And I would make a very slight modification, country specific. So this is one way to handle different or similar processes that have enough differences. There are other ways to approach this challenge, again, directing people over to a Confluence page or something else that lists them out. But this will let you have multiple variations on a theme to tailor it. And again, I always think of the brand new person, like I was, when I started on help desk not knowing anything. I want to make sure when they open that ticket, they have everything they need right there. Glenn, when I find the product manager for this product, I will definitely bring this up. Also, just an aside, I will be going to team in Barcelona. So if anyone's in Barcelona, please let me know. Drop me a direct message somewhere. Would love to meet up. But also, if you have questions or things you want to learn from Barcelona, please let me know as well. I will be looking to create content there and help get people answers. And I do have a quick Google form for things like feedback, but include your ideas about what you want to learn from Barcelona in there. Oops. So again, we can build out, again, these variations of a theme with different playbooks. Now, another limitation is these playbooks only exist in this project. So the playbook is scoped or limited or only lives in wherever you make it. This makes sense. Typically, our JSM projects are focused on a certain type of support. My human resources project only helps human resources. And my IT project only helps IT. And because of that, I won't have the same type of ticket showing up in each. It's possible someone puts in one accidentally, so I can just move it. But in this project, I can only expect these types of processes. So this is one way we can build out and support the team. The most successful tier 1 team I worked with had a Confluence space that basically did what Playbooks does. They just had a list of pages of articles that you would go down, and it was everything they did, and step by step, do this, do this, do this. And it lived in Confluence, which was wonderful. Having something like this is even better, though, because you don't have to go to Confluence. That team also had 2 people whose entire job it was just to update and improve documentation, which is amazing. Not everyone has that luxury. So in terms of playbooks, some recommendations would be to identify some of the best use cases, either the things that your agents do a lot or the things they need support with, and pilot out a few of them. But it does require a lot of homework. I made up how to do a password reset, and I even had people helping me in chat with what the steps should be. Make sure you understand what these processes are. So talk to your team, talk to your information security or legal team or whoever to make sure these steps make sense, and make sure you can write the steps out without relying on the playbook. So before you get in here, make sure you know what you're going to put in, then put it in, then test it out with some folks. And that's how you'll identify and start to learn which are the playbooks that will be most impactful. So when your agents do get to their tickets, the appropriate playbooks will show up. All right, folks, quick coffee break for Rob and water break. What questions do y'all have on playbooks? I've gotten a couple as we've gone. It doesn't support images, which is the big one. And we can have those automations run within there. Also a reminder, if you're liking this, whether the content or you just like me, hit the like button. We've got about 50 folks and 11 likes, which is amazing. Also consider taking a look at my online learning courses. If finances are a challenge for you, reach out to me. My email's in the bottom left of your screen. I'll find a way to make it work so you can learn. And also consider becoming a channel member. You get early access to videos, some fun little, what are they called? Emojis, like my little Atlassian study donkey here, and a couple other nice perks. Don't forget hype. Which hype? Liz, there's a lot of hype going on. All right. I'm not seeing too many questions, folks. Overall, I like the direction Playbooks is going. There's some things I wish it could do a little better. For example, images. Another example would be copying them across projects or having better management of the execution log. So more ways for me as the admin to see who's using them and how to tailor them. All right. If you're watching on mobile, YouTube has a new feature called Hype, which is a thing apparently. If you swipe left on the comment bar, you can hype the video. So if you're watching this on mobile, please hype the video. I have so many things I have to ask you to do now. Yes, and going back to the top, just a reminder to folks that Data Center is going offline in 2029. So we have a number of years. I think it's this page. I'll put this link in the chat, but if you're using Data Center, we're on a timeline now. So there's a lot of information on this link that explains why they're doing it, when it's going to happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But by March, 28th in 2029, Data Center is hitting end of life. So if your company uses it, please make sure your teams are considering this and how do you upgrade or how do you move off of Data Center. But this will be very impactful for our friends on DC. All right, so next steps, please get hands-on. If you're using Jira Service Management Cloud, you should have access to this feature. You just need to be a project admin. You can go in and start building these out. But remember to keep in mind a lot of homework is needed to be successful with this, like is with any tool. So make sure you're understanding what the use cases are. And also feel free to come back and review this recording, talk to other people who have used it, and talk to your team. You'll notice I have Get Hands-On in there twice. That's not a mistake. It really is important for us to understand the system by doing, by getting and like touching and feeling the thing and correcting it. So that's a very important aspect in our learning. Please also feel free to email me, robert@heen.tech, and join us in Discord. Again, lots of great live chat on Atlassian topics, both and non-Atlassian topics. And I can see a couple of folks from here have already joined, so I'll quickly welcome you all. Otherwise, thank you so much for learning with me. I was excited to see this feature. I think it can be very useful. I haven't had the chance to deploy it at scale yet, but I'd be curious as folks start to use it, what other limitations or wishes or desires there happen to be. So I'm about done. I'll keep the chat open for a couple minutes, but please drop other questions, queries, concerns, conundrums, complaints, confusions, or compliments that you might have. And please remember to like the video. And I'll drop one last poll. DB, I'll come right back to your question in a moment. One last poll on just, was this useful? And also, again, let me know what else you want to learn. There's a lot, a lot around and within Atlassian to update us on. All right, question on data center. I think in here somewhere, they list out options. Under this, how we'll support you, DB. Under 1,000 users, self-service tools, between 1 and 5,000, a fast shift program, and over 5,000, more hands-on help. This website might help you too. If you're on data center, you also can probably reach out to your Atlassian support rep or account manager. They should have more information, I'm assuming. And DB, honestly, the Discord channel I linked might also be helpful. There's a lot of folks in there who use data center who can probably share experience and share information about what they have. You're very welcome, Frank. All right, folks. That's about all for Playbooks. Again, please like and subscribe if you haven't. Really appreciate you all joining me here to learn. Hopefully you got something useful from this. I am taking Monday off, so you won't see me streaming Monday, but on tomorrow I've got another session on the 905, which is a certification around Jira board configuration. Definitely worth checking out if you have Jira boards for any kind of project work. And next week, I'm starting a new series on being an Atlassian Cloud, Confluence Cloud admin on Tuesday. Oh, thank you, Liz. I assume you're referring to the 910 on the site. So the course Liz is referring to covers one of the Atlassian certifications on Jira Service Management and ITSM. You'll see me building out more there. But again, if you need help, if you have a financial restriction, anything like that, let me know. It's more important to me that you learn and feel comfortable with stuff. So reach out to me direct. Anyway, folks, thank you for joining me. Hope to see you tomorrow to learn about boards, or on Tuesday to learn about Confluence. And really hope you have a great day. Thank you all again, and I'll see you all soon. The voucher Liz is referring to is if you purchase some of my courses, you also get an exam voucher when you complete it. So if you're looking to earn exams, that's a great way. You'll get learning and an attempt at the course, or attempt at the exam. All right, folks, thank you again. Have a great day, and I hope to see you